This is the second chapter 8 lecture outline. It's going to be a little shorter than the first one, and it's essentially going to cover Earth's different layers. The first rocky outer layer is called the crust. It varies in thickness depending on if you're talking about an ocean region, a continental region, or a mountainous region. But relative to the size of the Earth, this piece is not very thick. There are two types of crust. We have continental and oceanic crust. The continental crust is much older than the oceanic crust, but it's a less dense than the oceanic crust. Below the crust, you have the mantle. This is a huge area beneath the Earth's surface. It goes to a depth of about 1,800 miles, and it's composed of mostly the same type of igneous rock, although as you get really deep, it does tend to change at greater depths. Below the mantle, you have the outer core. Now, this is a huge area of itself. If you picture a sphere that has a radius of about 2,100 miles, that's how big we're talking about the outer core. And it's composed of mostly a liquid iron nickel alloy, and it has a very high density of 11 grams per cubic centimeter. Here's some other layers that we've already sort of defined in previous chapters. We have the lithosphere. This is a part of the crust and uppermost mantle. So this encompasses a region about 100 kilometers thick, and this is a cool, solid region. Now this region, if we want to put it in quotes, floats above the asthenosphere. And if we remember, the asthenosphere is that soft, weak, close to the melting point layer of rock that the lithosphere is able to kind of float on top of and move. This goes to a depth about 660 kilometers in the upper mantle. Below that, we have the mesosphere, which is considered the lower mantle. This is from 660 to 2,900 kilometers. It's a more rigid layer. Rocks are very hot and there's capable of gradual flow, so you have a lot of magma in this region. You have that outer core, which is the liquid layer. It's very thick. We have convective flow of metallic iron within this area, generates Earth's magnetic field. And then finally, we have the inner core, which is basically a huge piece of itself with a radius of about 754 miles. And this tends to behave like a solid. So here's just a nice picture of all of those things. So again, you have your inner core, a solid piece of iron, followed by the outer core, liquid iron that rotates around the inner core. Then you have the mantle, which is a pretty large region that's full of rock, but some regions there's high pressures and high temperatures, so it's able to move around rather easily. And then you have the very, very small outer layer relative to everything else, which is the crust, which is only 5 to 70 kilometers thick.